Hello, everyone. Hello. Okay, so I am gonna have the last devo, which is really sad, but you're gonna have a great time, I hope. So, this is my devo. My name is Malena, and I'm from the Faroe Islands. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know yet, actually, I know. Okay, the Faroe Islands are right here. And it looks like this. This is the Faroe Islands in a nutshell. And it's really pretty. Okay, so my devo is going to be about doubt and faith. And it's something that I've been thinking about through my whole time at Kibune. You're getting a resume or whatever it's called, summary. Okay, so first of all, I was thinking, like, what is doubt? Because I was doubting a lot, and so, like, how do you, like, what even is this? And so, in the Bible, the study Bible, it defines doubt as being torn between trusting God or trusting the world or one's own natural abilities. Yeah, and so, when you're doubting, you have questions like, is God even real? What if it's all a lie? What if I'm in the wrong religion? And like, was that God intervening or just something random? And then I put ... because I'm sure you guys can come up with your own doubts. Yeah, so is it wrong to doubt?
Yes.
No. Thanks. Okay, in my opinion, it's not wrong to doubt. And as Steve Ollie once said, God is not surprised by our doubt. Cool. Okay. So, there are, however, some things about doubt that are not too good. So, like, it's not, like, doubt is kind of not good if you're, like, doubting, you have questions, and then you don't go looking for answers, because if you have questions, you should go answer them, because otherwise you're just left with your doubt, and then it kind of, grows, and it's not healthy. It's not too good. And then, also, when you're, like, like, in the stage of, like, going to look for answers, you shouldn't be scared, because what you're doing is ultimately just you want to know the truth better, and if you're, as a Christian, believe Christianity is true, then you're just going to know that better, so don't be scared of it. Okay, and then I found this really cool quote. It's, the value of doubt is to keep you open to God's revelations. If you don't doubt, you don't change. And if you have to have finite answers to infinite questions, you're not going to move. And this last part kind of reminds me of something that a really wise man once said. He said, don't expect black and white answers to multicolored questions. Which is kind of the same as if you have, anyway. So, this quote I came to, like, it's from someone called Madeline L'Anglais, or however you pronounce it. I, like, came across it in a really cool song from this album. So, one of my really cool friends showed me this album, and, like, it's actually all about doubt. Like, it's called The Arrow, and it's by Andy Mineo, and you can kind of see it in, like, the song, but yeah, so it's like, I've been, and then ... and then it ends with Lost, and it's just all talking about doubt, and this album is a masterpiece, and it just all comes together so nicely, and, like, I don't know, the music, and, like, the whole idea of it, so that, like, album helped me a lot through my, like, journey with doubt, and there's a lot of symbolism in it. And you can see, like, on the cover, you can't really see quite a bit, there's like a sky or cloud with an arrow in it, which is this thing. So, the main picture of this album is like an arrow shooting through, like, the fog or sky, it's like, you gotta listen to it, it's cool. But, so, like, the doubt is like fog and you can't see out of it, and then you're just, like, searching for clarity. Because, yeah. Anyway, cool album. And in it, he also describes, like, the mind of a doubter. So one of the cool quotes that I like is, do I believe? Believe I do. Because he's just asking, like, because he's doubting, so do I even believe this? Like, do I even have faith, And like, do I believe it? And then he's like, I do believe it. So like, believe I do, but he's not completely sure. And I just think it's really cool because it's the same words and he just changed the order of it and the meaning is really cool. And then some of the other quotes is like, the opposite of faith ain't doubt. It's when you got it all figured out. Because you can have faith while you're still doubting, so it's not like the opposite of each other. So even though you're doubting, you still have faith. But the opposite of faith is not doubt, it's when you got it all figured out. Because when you have like answered all the questions in the whole universe, then you figured it all out. Good job. And then, you know it all. Like it's knowledge. And there's no faith in knowledge. And so I just think it's really cool. And then another quote is like, what was the Eden fruit? I'll ask him when I see him. Because it's like symbolizing kind of, or at least all of this is my interpretation. But it's like, what was the Eden fruit? That's like a question, And some questions you won't have answered until, you won't have them answered. But maybe you will when you like get to heaven. And so therefore it's like, I'll ask him when I see him. And the use of when is not if, it's when. Because even though he's doubting, he still has faith. Okay, then the next one is trusting even when I don't see. That's the definition of faith. And that's where my brain goes like, hold up. Is that the definition of faith? So, ask myself, what's the definition of faith? And so, in the Bible, Hebrews 11 describes faith pretty well. And then it says, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. And this adds up pretty well with Andy Minio's definition of faith, which is trusting even when I don't see. You don't see, And so, I wanted to ask people, what's your definition of faith? And I asked Satish John, he hadn't thought about it. John, no. And so I asked a lot of people. So this is what I got. Andy Minio, trusting even when I don't see. Derek Burnside said it's believing God is good. Hazel Carter said believing Jesus will do what he says he's going to do, and walking in obedience to his will, and trusting that Jesus does all things well. Yeah. And then, in the ESV Study Bible, it says, at one point it says, faith is a settled trust and confidence in God, based on his character and promises revealed in Scripture. And another place it says, faith is a settled confidence that something in the future, something that God has promised, will actually happen because God will make it happen. And yeah. And then Steve Volley defined faith as my inner picture of reality that I act on. And that was the first definition I came across that didn't only apply it to God or religion. And that's why I quite like it. Because, for example, it also applies to y'all's chairs. Because your inner picture of reality is that there is a chair, and that chair is going to hold you if you sit on it. And then you act on it. Therefore, you can have faith in the chair. Good job. Okay, and if you haven't noticed, my first language is not English. So, in English, faith, it's called faith. Then I translated it to Faroese, where it's called tshik. And when I translate tshik back to English, you can also translate it as belief. And this doesn't just work with Faroese, it also works with Danish and German. And yeah, so I was just like, faith and belief, that's apparently not the same thing. So, my brain goes like, what's the difference between faith and belief? And then guys, I thought about this for a week. I don't remember. But, yeah, so I was like, when people say they believe something, it doesn't always imply that they trust it. But when they say that they have faith in something, they always kind of imply that they trust it, And so, after thinking about it, I came to the conclusion it's trust. So, the difference between faith and belief, I believe, is trust. And that fits really well with Steve Volley's definition of faith. Because it was faith is my inner picture of reality that I act on. So the first part, my inner picture of reality, that's just a belief, you know? You believe the chair's there. And then that you act on it, that's trust. And that adds up with the fact that faith, like, you know, the difference between faith and belief is trust. So I had the audacity to change Steve Wally's definition of faith to my inner picture of reality that I trust by acting on. And then my grades goes, okay, great. You know, perfect. But then it's like, I don't want blind faith, you know? Like, what do I base my trust on? And so, I went to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 14, and it says, "And if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is useless, and so is your faith." And I was like, hold up, it's his faith. And so, if the resurrection, like what I gather from this, is if the resurrection is a scam, if it's all just fake, then our faith is useless. And so, for my PSP, I decided to look into the resurrection. Guys, plot twist. There's good evidence for the resurrection. But my problem is, or not problem, but you know, in history, you can't prove anything. Because in history, you can't talk about absolute certainty, like it's 100% that the resurrection happened. But you can only talk about like certainty, like how probable is it that it happened. So you can't prove anything in history. And then I thought like the resurrection is how God worked back then, and I can't prove that. But if God's real, then he's still acting today, and then I should be able to see that in my life. So what do I base my trust on? I base it on my personal testimony, which is how God worked in my life, and how I hear from others that he has worked in their life. Because that shows that he's, you know, yeah, you get the point. Plug. There's a testimony night tonight. Just saying. It starts at 8:15. Okay. And so, that's all really good, right? So we have to get from belief, which I think is like the first thing, you know? You get from belief to faith by like jumping, just by trust, you know? And I call this a leap of faith, because I think that sounds cool in English. And so, what I base this on, you know, the reason that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna run, you know, I'm gonna take my leap of faith, is that I have like this, what I like to call a backpack of testimonies. And so, unlike any backpack that you absolutely shouldn't jump with when jumping like that, this backpack is filled with something like helium, you know? It kind of helps. So, my big takeaway from Bible school, and your big takeaway from Malena's Devo, is if you're in doubt, I would recommend looking into the resurrection and listening to testimonies. Reflect on your own life, how has God worked in your life, and listen to other people's testimony, how he has worked in their life. That's my life tonight. Okay. Thirdly, listen to Anthony's album. It's great. Okay, that's all.